For decades, the world has watched Venezuela for one thing: its oil. The largest proven reserves on the planet, a resource that built a nation and defined its place in the global order. But in the shadow of a collapsing state, that's not the real story anymore. The ground is shifting, and the most valuable asset might not be buried under the earth. What if the most explosive asset hidden inside Venezuela isn't underground, but on the blockchain? To understand how this is possible, you have to understand how Venezuela's old source of power became its greatest vulnerability. For most of the 20th century, oil was everything. It funded the government, the infrastructure, the social programs. But this total dependence created a fragile economy, a house of cards built on a single commodity. When oil prices crashed and political mismanagement took hold, the economy began to crumble. Then came the sanctions. Starting in 2014 and escalating dramatically, the United States and its allies moved to isolate the Maduro regime, cutting it off from the global financial system. Access to international banking, credit, and trade was choked off. The result was catastrophic hyperinflation. The national currency, the bolivar, became virtually worthless. Citizens saw their life savings evaporate overnight. The government, unable to transact in dollars, grew desperate for an alternative, a financial lifeline that operated outside the control of its adversaries. This desperation sparked a pivot to cryptocurrency. The first, most public attempt was the petro, a state-backed digital currency supposedly backed by oil reserves. It was widely seen as a failure, plagued by a lack of trust and transparency. But behind the scenes, a much more significant strategy was taking shape. The regime allegedly began to embrace Bitcoin. With some of the cheapest electricity in the world due to massive state subsidies, Venezuela became an unlikely haven for Bitcoin mining. The government reportedly nationalized and consolidated mining operations, harnessing this computational power for its own ends. They weren't just mining it, they were learning to use it, creating a shadow financial system to move money and evade the tightening grip of sanctions. Now, after the sudden, hypothetical fall of Nicolás Maduro, a far more dangerous question emerges. Does Venezuela hold a secret Bitcoin war chest, potentially worth billions? This isn't a single government account that can be easily frozen. Experts believe the regime, learning from years of asset seizures, would have spread its Bitcoin holdings across thousands of anonymous wallets. Using sophisticated techniques like mixers and chain hopping to obscure the origin of the funds, they could have created a decentralized treasury, a ghost network of digital gold. The exact amount is impossible to verify, but analysts using on-chain heuristics and intelligence from the region have put forward plausible estimates ranging from hundreds of millions to several $billion. A financial black hole at the center of a failed state. Locked out of the global financial system for years, Venezuela adapted, turning to the only truly sovereign alternative. They didn't just survive, they built a new kind of strategic reserve. Experts believe the regime spread this Bitcoin across thousands of wallets, making it incredibly difficult to trace, let alone seize. A distributed, resilient system designed for a world where your enemies control the banks. The stability of the entire crypto market could hang in the balance. If even a fraction of that Bitcoin moves, the market will feel it. A sudden liquidation of $1 billion in Bitcoin would trigger a cascade of sell-offs. The price would plummet, liquidating leveraged traders and creating a feedback loop of panic. The market's delicate liquidity would be shattered. It wouldn't just be a red day on the charts. It would be a catastrophic event, a crisis of confidence shaking the very foundations of the asset class. A chaotic regime collapse creates profound instability, and with it, a critical question: who controls the keys? Are they stored on hardware wallets in a presidential palace vault? Are they held by a handful of loyalists, now scattered and desperate? Or are they secured by a multi-signature scheme, requiring cooperation between individuals who may now be rivals, or worse? In the chaos, a single insider with access to a private key could become an instant multimillionaire, leaking a portion of the stash onto the open market. But what happens if those bitcoins aren't sold, but seized? If a new US-friendly government takes power and, with the help of Western intelligence and blockchain analytics firms, manages to consolidate control over these wallets, The implications are just as massive. We have precedent. After the takedown of the Silk Road marketplace, the U.S. Department of Justice seized over 144,000 bitcoins. They didn't dump them on the market and crash the price. They auctioned them off strategically over time. In this new geopolitical landscape, Bitcoin is no longer fringe. It's a strategic asset, akin to gold reserves. If the US government, or a proxy government it supports, ends up holding a multi-billion-dollar Bitcoin position seized from a former adversary, they're not dumping it. They are holding it. It becomes a new tool in their financial arsenal, a hedge against their own currency, and a powerful symbol of a new era. So how would we know if it's happening? The first signals won't come from a press conference. They will appear on-chain. Watch for large, coordinated movements from long-dormant wallets. Look for spikes in exchange inflows, as large blocks of Bitcoin are moved into position to be sold. Monitor the OTC desk premiums in Latin America and Asia, which would surge as buyers try to absorb the massive sell pressure off exchange. These are the digital breadcrumbs. This is the new front line of geopolitical intelligence. Venezuela's oil shaped the 20th century, fueling industries and funding wars. Its collapse may have inadvertently created a catalyst for the 21st century's next great financial story. The world is watching the presidential palace, but the real power may be hidden in the blockchain. If Venezuelan Bitcoin starts moving, you'll see it on the charts long before you ever hear about it on the news.